So there's an experience that I've had quite a bit in the Trump regime where, you know, they'll float like, oh, he might do X. And you'll look at it and be like, nah, that's too ridiculous. There's no way that he would go that far. And then lo and behold, within like a week, he does the thing. And you're sitting there going, how? I mean, I remember back in like 2017 or 2018, I remember Bill Maher said on his show that he doesn't think Trump is going to leave if he loses the election in 2020. And I remember thinking at the time, even though I was totally opposed to Trump, I was completely anti-Trump. You go back and, you know, watch the show from those years. I was as big of an opponent as anybody. But I heard Maher say that, and I went, that seems a little much. That seems like actual Trump derangement syndrome. That the reality is, I don't think he would go that far, right? Not even he would do that. Well, I'll be damned, because 2020 comes around, and of course, you know, he does the fake elector slate, January 6th, literally on the phone telling politicians do not verify Joe Biden as the winner even after the violence on January 6th. He did everything in his power, short of like declaring martial law and seizing the voting machines. He did everything to try to stay in office. And so now there's nothing I've fucking put by him. Well, guess what? I got another one of these stories that sounds almost too absurd to be true, but it's true. So take a look at this. The Trump administration has ordered the removal of an 1863 photo of an enslaved man's scars from U.S. historical sites. So this is the photo right here. This is the photo. And, of course, the idea behind showing this is, look at the horrors of slavery. Chattel slavery is treating human beings like they're not human beings, like they're simply property, and this is the result of that. This is what that looked like. This is what white supremacy looks like. That's unacceptable, according to Trump. So let's go through it here. National Park, this is from Washington Post. National Park to remove photo of enslaved man scars. The Trump administration is ordering the removal of information on slavery and multiple national parks in an effort to scrub them of, quote, corrosive ideology. Think about how fucking warped that is, bro. What's corrosive is to hide reality, to try to whitewash it and pretend like everything's hunky-dory and there are no bad parts of U.S. history. No, we need to learn from the mistakes. And what you're saying is bury the mistakes as if they didn't happen. Lie. You're asking to, this is called a lie by omission, as opposed to a lie by commission is when you actively lie about something using your words, right? But a lie by omission is, I'm not going to tell the truth, but the way I'm not telling the truth is to just hide the truth that I know is the case. All right, let's continue here. They say the following. The Trump administration has ordered the removal of signs and exhibits related to slavery at multiple national parks, according to 4 people familiar with the matter, including a historic photograph of a formerly enslaved man showing scars on his back. The individuals who spoke on the condition of anonymity because they were not authorized to speak with the media said the removals were in line with President Donald Trump's March executive order directing the Interior Department to eliminate information that reflects a corrosive ideology that disparages historic Americans. Wow. So, in other words, telling the truth about black history in this country, telling the truth about slavery is disparaging historic Americans. This is how fascists whitewash history. This is how they lie and come up with a fairy tale version, the version that they want to be the case. National Park Service officials are broadly interpreting the directive to apply to information on racism, sexism, slavery, gay rights, or persecution of indigenous people. In other words, you better not talk about that Native American genocide either. Better not talk about westward expansion and the Trail of Tears and Manifest Destiny. Don't want to do that, because that's a little too harsh on our ancestors, isn't it? Knowing that they did monstrous things. It's a little too harsh. We want to lie to ourselves and pretend like we're the good guys. We've never been wrong. We've always been right. It really is, guys. It's the most childish mentality imaginable. And I think people realize that when they see it in other countries. When other countries try to whitewash their atrocities, like, you know, when Turkish people, for example, deny the Armenian genocide, there's this like reaction around the world of like, it's almost like it's pathetic, right? It's not only are they wrong, but it's also like you're kind of pathetic for not acknowledging the truth. It's like, really, you need to protect your fragile ego that much so you pretend like the history isn't the history. But somehow when it comes to us, these guys act like, oh, we're totally normal and cool and this is sane and reasonable. It's like, no, you look like petty little bitches who can't handle the truth. They continue. Following Trump's order, Interior Department officials issued policies ordering agency employees to report any information, including signage and gift shop items, that might be out of compliance. Wow. They won't even allow you to sell anything. Oh, Jesus Christ. Trump officials also launched an effort asking park visitors to report offending material. Wow. but they mostly received criticisms of the administration and praise for the parks. That's wonderful. The latest orders include removing information at Harper's Ferry National Historical Park in West Virginia. Two people familiar with the matter said, where the abolitionist John Brown led a raid seeking to arm slaves for a revolt. Staff have also been told that information at the president's house site in Philadelphia, where George Washington kept slaves, does not comply with the policy, according to a third individual. That's crazy, bro. I guarantee you they're about to hide everything about John Brown. That's for damn sure. Jonathan Zimmerman, a University of Pennsylvania professor who studies history of education, said this is the latest installment in the Trump administration's unprecedented interference with the nation's civic institutions, a campaign which also includes Trump's takeover of the Kennedy Center and attempts to pressure the Smithsonian. So remember, he forced the Smithsonian to change their exhibit on impeachment to eliminate his impeachments and pretend like they never happened. That's how ridiculous this guy is. Meanwhile, at the White House, he put up pictures of all the presidents, but for Biden's, he removed Biden's picture and put a picture of the auto pen. So he gets to like joke around, ha ha he he, mock his political opponents, no problem whatsoever. But when it comes to telling objective, factual reality and history, he wants to hide it and give a sanitized Disney fucking version of it and eliminate anything negative about himself and eliminate anything that's obviously negative about the country. Quote, this is an enormous increase in federal power and control over the things we learn, Zimmerman said, brought to you by the team that says education should be state and local. That's exactly right. That's such a great point. My whole life, conservatives and Republicans have been saying, oh, you need to leave it to the states. Leave education to the states. That's not a federal matter. We don't want the federal government telling us what to believe and what to think, man. And then now, since Trump's in power, we want you to go way further than any Democratic administration has ever gone, telling us what to think and what to believe and what we can't talk about. Park Service spokesperson Rachel Paulitz said in a statement that all signage is under review. Interpretive materials that disproportionately emphasize negative aspects of U.S. history or historical figures without acknowledging broader context or national progress can unintentionally distort understanding rather than enrich it. Paulitz said, at Harper's Ferry, staff flagged more than 30 signs, according to a person familiar with the matter, and documents reviewed by the Post, that highlight information potentially in violation of Trump's policy. They include signs referring to racial discrimination and the hostility of white people to people who were formerly enslaved. That's amazing. That's amazing. So now you probably got to hide. Remember those pictures of like when there was a colored water fountain and a white water fountain? They probably want to hide those pictures and pretend they never existed. Hey, why not? Pretend the whole fucking civil rights movement never happened, because to talk about the civil rights movement means to admit that things were bad before that. So can't hide. Let's just erase all of that. Park Service officials marked this submission as out of compliance, with staff now expected to cover up parts of signs or remove them, the person said. I mean, this is humiliating. This is humiliating. And this is what fascists do, by the way. This is what they do. There's a national mythology that they believe in, and they try to whitewash history and turn it into their national mythology. And that's exactly what he's going to do, and exactly what he's done with information about himself. That's why he had to hide the fact at the Smithsonian that he was impeached twice, right? He wants to hide that because he wants to turn himself into a symbol, into an icon, into a legend, into, everything holy and everything right and everything just. And in order to do that, you need to lie. You need to whitewash. You need to fudge the facts. And so hand in hand with the fascist project comes the deification of the leader, that's Trump, but also the whitewashing of the history, to present a Disneyfied version of the history, to make it so that, the liberal values, which actually made this country great, the left-wing values, which constantly interjected to fix the direction of this country, they want to hide that. They want to pretend that didn't happen. They want to pretend like the New Deal was bad, even though it saved us from the Great Depression. They want to pretend that, the Native American genocide never happened. They want to pretend like women always had the right to vote. They want to pretend like race relations were always fucking hunky-dory, right? This is what they do. And so, again, this is another one of those things where I would have said to you, there's no way he'd be goofy enough and silly enough and pathetic enough to try to, ban historical pictures of slavery to try to, get people to talk about slavery less, right? Wrong. He's doing exactly that. It's humiliating. It's embarrassing. It's pathetic. It's a fucking scandal. And everybody should be outraged over it. Hey, y'all, do me a favor and like and subscribe. It helps out big time in the algorithm. Click the bell as well for notifications when videos drop. And watch that video on screen right now. You know you want to.